to another beautiful day on Global Television. This is The Desk, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, Nigeria. Well, today we want to look at something very critical because some persons felt the judiciary hardly go on strike, but today some officials were actually locked out, judicial officers, and that's because the judiciary is embarking on strike action. Well, looking at the state of the nation, assessment of the economy, and of course, looking at strike actions in Nigeria, especially this administration, beginning from 2023 until now. Well, I will have a guest join me on the program today as we discuss this very vital issue. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return and we'll hit the road running as we talk about the state of the nation, taking into cognizance the fact that the judiciary is embarking on strike action. We will be back after this break.
That Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world.
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Welcome back from that break. It is still The Desk. On The Desk today, we want to look at the state of the economy, the state of the nations, the things going on in the nation right now, especially for a very long time. We've not heard about judicial officers going on strike. But right now, judicial officers are embarking on a nationwide strike, to the extent that some persons were chased out of their offices today. And one of the things that a lot of people have said concerning this administration, especially Nigerians, is that if you are not satisfied, you go to the court, which has been the normal thing in Nigeria, because if you want to seek redress for anything, you go to what? The court. And there is this belief that the judiciary is the hope of the common man. But then, I think things are taking a different turn altogether, because as it is right now, it's obvious that a lot of Nigerians are not so much believing in the judiciary. I've had judicial officers on this platform who have also said, some, not all, as a matter of fact, some judicial officers are really compromising the process in different ways. And of course, Nigerians also believe that so many things need to be done, all right, because as it is right now, if the judiciary go on strike, what about the cases that are piling up in the court? What is the reason why they are going on strike? Nobody go on strike for just striking sake, for just the sake of striking. Nobody want to strike. Nobody want to halt activities. But then the judiciary is going on strike. We don't know, but let me just make this clear, that a lot of things are happening in the country on a daily basis. Even as we speak, some persons have cases today that we're supposed to be listening to. This strike action is a nationwide strike. All over Nigeria, judicial officers are embarking on this strike action. One would be tempted to ask questions such as, oh, if the judiciary go on strike, who will stand for them? Because they are the ones that are the judges, they are the lawyers, they are the ones who are custodians of the law, who interprets the law, who tell the people, this is what this evidence represents. Now, the same people are in court. Let's look at cases that have been in court for several years. People are lamenting over the fact that, well, a lot of people have cases in court, all right? And these cases have been there for a very long time. Some people's files have not been open for a while. We've heard of people who are even in prison that don't know when next they will be going to court. We have cases in court that have spent a lot of years, and people to whom these cases are connected, some of them have been remanded in prison. Now, let's talk about the impact of this strike action right now. That's what I'm trying to pull out. My guest will be joining me any moment. I have a doctor joining me on the program, as a matter of fact, and we'll be discussing this because the state of the nation at this particular time is something that Nigerians are yet to come to terms with. The way cases are being handled in Nigeria. Just a few days ago, we heard of a man that was sent to prison because somebody lied on him. And this is a Nigerian that doesn't have all it takes. People who depend on pro bono, okay, to get their cases treated. Then you look at a situation like this, people like that who are depending on the judicial officers to handle their case. Now that they are on strike, what will happen? This is the question. And to say the truth, some people believe that a lot of cases that are piling up in the courts today are cases that are begging to be attended to. All right? But now, let me just let us know that apart from the fact that some Nigerians are saying, well, the judiciary is no longer the hope of the common man, but some still believe in the fact that the judiciary is still the hope of the common man. But in this kind of economy, when you have an economy such as this, and you look at the state of the nation, if it is not doctors that are going on strike, it is maybe NLC, the Labour Congress. But now that judicial officers are going on a nationwide strike, what do you think of the economy. Because some persons were saying, well, majority of the electoral cases were decided from the court, and some judicial officers at least have enough to go back home with. That's what some average Nigerians are saying. But then, I don't know, now they are embarking on strike. Yeah, we'll be looking at the state of the nation, and I will have my guest join me as we look at the economy and how it has dwindled to the extent that even judicial officers are embarking on a nationwide strike, which is not common. Let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll come back to the discussion, and I'll have Dr. Aliu Ilyas join me as we talk about this very, very, very serious matter. Stay with us. We will be back after this break. Welcome back from that break. Well, we want to talk about the state of the nation generally, doing an assessment, x-ray the economy. And one of the reasons why we need to look at that is, number one, two things are involved. Two-term, second year in office for the presidency, the governors, and everyone who came into office in 2023. Then we'll also look at the fact that, of course, the High Court, the Federal High Court chapter of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, that is JUSN, has locked out judges, lawyers, staff, and litigants from accessing their courts following the indefinite strike declared by its national body. Sometimes some people think, well, there are so many cases waiting for attention that has not been attended to. For that reason, they shouldn't go on strike. Joining me on the desk this evening, like I said before I went on break, I have Dr. Aliu Ilyas joining me on the desk this evening. It's good to have you join us on the desk.
Thank you for having me.
Good evening. Welcome to the desk. Were you surprised to hear that JUSN is embarking on a nationwide strike? Because some persons felt, well, the judiciary is smiling so much in this administration.
Well, I think there's no sector of Nigeria that will go on strike that will be surprised. You've seen even the doctors are going on strike. We've seen currently in FCT, education and health sectors have been serious issues. So going on strike is not a new thing, and I'm sure that they would like to do this because it affects really high-profile people because of anything we want to. But the thing is, why do we have to go to strike? What brings about strike? Why can't they tame this problem? I recall there was time they increased their salary. Perhaps they have not actually paid as and when due for these people. Perhaps they are expecting more. But I can tell you, with this challenging economy, if we want to embark on strike, actually everybody will embark on strike because the purchasing power has been eroded by the economic policy.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I said we're going to talk about the state of the nation generally, looking at the economy. But looking at the economy, everyone have their own perspective of the economy. Looking at the state of the nation right now, what's your perspective or your assessment, a brief assessment of the economy? You're an economist.
Let's take it close to even the federal government themselves. Most of the staff in the federal government actually have a day they will go to work and they have the day they will not go to work. So they have been rationally going to work, which is also very negative externalities to the economy, because by the time people work today, they didn't go to work tomorrow, by Thursday, by maybe after 3 days, perhaps they go to work twice in a week. It's an economic loss to Nigerians, and it's a dangerous one. And what brought about that is because of purchasing power, because people have to transport themselves down. For instance, if you have somebody who lives in Gogogoda and is working at the secretariat, there's no way you will not expend like 4,000 naira a day to come to work. So if you calculate this for 5 days, that's 20,000 naira. Or from salary of how much? This is why we said Nigeria is at a very, very trying time at this point in time, because everybody is trying to cope with the economy. And I recall that government has actually put up a lot of what do we call it, palliative. Now they said they are giving them another money, it's 5,000 naira additional. Those things cannot help, and that's why we tell most of those people that are agitating for bigger salary. As an economist, we will never canvass for bigger salary. We will canvass for a better economy where transport is cheap, where food produce are not expensive. It's not about your salary. It's about what the money can actually buy. So we should not continue to look at salary, but look at other legacy problems like before. If you look at a lot of macroeconomic indices, you see that Nigeria is not better at all. So we should look at how much an amount can buy in Nigeria. In other words, we're looking at a very, very rather look at affordable transportation, look at affordable housing, look at when you start looking at those affordability, that's when you know that it's not about you can collect 1 million naira, it doesn't have value. I hope we are not heading to Zimbabwe.
Well, you can collect 1 million naira. Well, the way you think is different from the way other Nigerians are thinking, because you are an economist. Some persons will tell you, well, my take home cannot take me home anymore, so I need my salary to be increased and all of that.
We have 2 unions, NLC and TUC.
TUC.
And for me, for most time, I only look at TUC as being much more intentional, because we still NLC be canvassing for more salary, where you are supposed to canvass for the effect, pushing the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Where you're supposed to talk about the willing buyer, willing seller of our forex. You have to look at the fundamental problem. You don't look at the up. You look at the what actually the root cause of why your 70,000 cannot buy a bag of rice. Look at why your 20,000 cannot take you cannot do your transportation runnings for a month. These are the things we have to look at, and that's why we said government must be much more intentional to solve those legacy problems, not every time looking for salary increase.
But how can these things be done? Because we're saying, okay, government needs to make the economy better. How can these things be done? Is it possible?
Very possible. I recall in the year 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came out and said the current state of the mind is on food security. Some of us are happy. That's okay. The succor we are looking for has arrived. But up till now, we have not seen anything that translates to food security. What do you mean by food security? Is to simply have what we call all-round season farming. Where you can farm all round. That simply means produce will be available. It will not be when there is rain or when there is harvest period that you have cheaper commodities. Another thing is that you recall that a major cause of this problem was fuel subsidy removal. The government said yes, we are bringing up CNG. And what has the CNG done for us? I've converted my car since last year. I can tell you for the past 3 months, I've not gone to buy CNG. Do you know why? there is no availability of where to buy. If you go to buy now, you have to spend 3 hours there in the queue. So when you spend 3 hours from your normal working day, what happens to you? So they are not making it. So for me, the intentionality is poor to what they're actually telling us. And also, sometimes you have what we call rolling plan, long-term plan, 2020 agenda. I've not seen the agenda currently going on that is reflecting that, okay, by so period, this is what they want to achieve, by so period is what they achieve. So in the long run, we may have to live like this for long time. So salary increment, for me, it's never the solution. You can get 1 million naira and you don't get value of 100,000.
You can get 1 million naira, but don't get a value of 100,000 because of the state of the nation. But as an economist right now, because some persons have are of the school of thought that we are heading somewhere, all right, with the state of the nation, with the way the economy is, and even the president have severally said there will be light at the end of the tunnel. The coordinating minister of the economy, talking about Wale Edun, have severally said, well, the Nigerian federal government is on track, that this is going to end somewhere, that this biting will be for a moment. What's your thoughts?
For me, there's a marginal decrease in food commodities, and I try to look at why. This morning, one of the national daily said import has increased by 63%. And some people are happy. I said this is danger. Where Jonathan, through Akewumi of AFDB when he was Minister of Agriculture, where Buhari that does anchor borrower took us from, they are returning them. That's just simply the meaning. Because if you are now importing rice, for instance, most rice milling companies are closing. Why are they closing? They have opened the border and they're now importing rice. When you're importing rice, what are you doing? You are killing the infant industry. You are killing them the more. And at the point we say we have rice sufficient, at a particular point, if you remember, that we can actually feed local rice. Some of us consume local rice in our house, but now the reverse is now the case. The painful thing is that we are not even working on what we call import substitution. So as an economist, the first thing we always preach is that you must do what is called import substitution. And what do we mean by import substitution? Those things that will have foreigners taking care of, those things that we import, try to establish a factory, a manufacturing company that can quickly start producing in Nigeria. Example is pharmaceutical products. Remember, they left Nigeria. In here that we used to buy at 2,000 naira before this administration, it's now 10,000 naira. And we have not had that import substitution of empowering those pharmaceutical industry locally to be able to produce those things so that we will not need to open border for them to bring it in. No country will survive or will develop or will grow without having a very formidable import substitution, empowering your manufacturing sector. And the reason is very, very easy. It's on our table. How much is Forex today? It's about 1,500 naira. How do you want manufacturing sector to survive in that? That's a serious problem. How much do you pay for electricity? In fact, they are about to actually increase it the more. So how do you survive in a climate like this? So until government is very intentional and solve problem of inadequacy in the manufacturing sector, that's where we'll go from there.
But then, looking at the state of the nation right now, taking into cognizance the economic reality that we have, there are two things on ground right now. The fact that people are hungry, and that's what Nigerians are holding.
Now, President Bola Tinubu will always say, hold on, understand your pain. Don't worry, things will get better. He has always acknowledged that.
That's what he's always saying.
He's always saying that, yes, I understand there is suffering, but don't worry, hold on. So holding on for 2 years down the line, and another 2 years, start counting. I don't know when.
But have there not been any little change or something?
Right. To be candid, there is a marginal decrease in food. Cost of food. If you look at rice, they are reducing. But for we said it's cosmetics because it's not something that will last. It's cosmetics in the sense of we are supposed to be food sufficient in Nigeria. Remember, legacy problem insecurity. It's still bedeviling Benue. It's still bedeviling Plateau. It's still bedeviling Zamfara. Niger have their own fair share. When you look at all these problems, if it's not tamed and it's not solved, Nigeria will not get are better. So we must solve the fundamental issue. And that's why I said it's painful that we are now opening border where we are supposed to be making sure that internally we are okay. And that's another problem that I have with the African free continental trade area. That if you allow that thing to surface, Nigeria will become a dumping ground. So until we protect that in the long run, that's when we can have that food sufficiency. And if you look at our inflation, our major problem, many households now spend over 60% on food consumption. And ideally, you're not supposed to spend more than 10%, even 5% where we have 1% inflation, even less than 10%, so that you can have money to do more savings. Remember, the more you have savings as an economy, the more you have capacity to grow capital. From capital, the more you will have to invest. Even somebody who works in the private sector, the government sector, need to have 10,000 naira saved, so that at the end of the year, you will pay rent. Is that also? But if you cannot save, you cannot pay rent, because simply that all the money is going to food. So if 60% is going for your food, how much will you pay for school fees? How much will you pay for rent? How many percentage will remain for you to pay for rent? And other sundry costs that you have to embark on. And that's why this government must make sure that if there's anything at all they want to help Nigerians with, they must make sure that food inflation reduced to the barest minimum level. Remember, we have new reference year of 2014 or so. We have to rebase. It also shows that we have reduction in inflation. That is just on paper, but it doesn't reflect on the economy, because you only change the base year, the cost of buying those things still remain the same.
But why is it that when the price of, let's say, petroleum, for instance, price of things generally in Nigeria, if it goes up, hardly does it come down?
When you say if it goes up, hardly does it come down?
Well,
the major factor is forex, and people are taking it for granted. When this administration came in, dollar to naira was around 500 naira. Now it is 1,500 naira. So that's the major thing. So imagine if dollar comes down to 500 naira, you say things will not cheap. Things will become more cheaper. It will become more lesser. So until we work on the instruments that will make those forex come down, that's when you expect other things to come down, because we are now in global market, and petroleum product is a global commodity. Will you now say, in fact, the irony is that even though now that we have oil price globally at hovering around $60 per barrel, do you know it's negative for us? As it's reducing, so also income of Nigeria is also reducing. If it increase, citizens will also suffer, because the price is an open market.
So where are we?
The price will now still go up until Nigeria gets itself right. And we're thinking that maybe our refinery would have been a solution. Even the refinery, combine all of them working, can they still make up 20% of what we need daily? These are the questions. So until our handlers, our elites have a consensus that definitely they want to move Nigeria forward, we will continue to move in a slow manner to that promised land.
All right. As it is right now, we're looking at the state of the economy as at today. Salah is around the corner, as a matter of fact. We know that one thing about Nigerians is the fact that no matter what happens, Nigerians are very resilient people. Nigerians can bear things. Nigerians overpower things. I don't know the word to use, but then they get used to situations easily. As it is right now, a lot of people are getting used to the situation. So, looking at everything right now, because the message is that, look at inflation, look at what happened to inflation, look at this, we are trying to do a free flow of naira so that we can get it right and all of that. What exactly do you think can be done, all right, to salvage this very situation?
Right.
Because a lot of people are complaining, but then what about the solution?
You mentioned of that Salah is around the corner.
Yes.
So Salah is a big Salah that we usually buy around. And if you go to markets and ask for how much is RAM today, you see RAM that you usually buy at 70,000 going for around 250, 300,000. What is the problem? Is it that goats or RAM sheep doesn't produce again? They still produce now. But what happened is the cost of transfer equation. So you have a ram that you purchase as a first buyer, as a merchant, at maybe 50,000 naira, but you are transporting to Abuja with 100,000 naira. So how much will you now sell it? And that's why we said that fuel subsidy removal actually transfer cost to a lot of things. And now that we have alternative that will cost CNG, has it actually trickled down to where it's supposed to trickle to? So until we solve those fundamentals, then Nigeria economy generally, you made mention of what is the solution. The solution is not far-fetched. In fact, they are not even rocket science. There is a lot of theory that have come to solve a lot of problems. If at all, Nigeria is peculiar. But we have seen initial theory which said government intervention. That government, if things are not going well, intervene appropriately. But at this point in time, our government is now staying aloof. You know, they now say first of the removal, you are on your own. Dollar, willing buyer, willing seller. And there is no country in the world. I'm saying there's no country in the world. At least we have traveled little that will say they leave their currency to the hand of willing buyer, willing seller. I don't want even to go to MPR, interest rate at this point in time. So if you look at most macroeconomic indices, like rate of interest rate, you are going to borrow money at 30%. What business will you do that you make that profit? So you now just said no, let's also go and keep the money in the bank and collect the interest. Is that not rational? So and that's it. So and that CBN policy is actually we call it hawkish approach. You are sacrificing growth because you want to bring inflation down. And that's why if you notice for 2 consecutive MPC meetings, they maintain it at the same level it is. Because if they actually do any effort to increase the NPR more, it will cost more problem. But for them to go down now, a lot of things happen. You could see Trump effect. Now, we are not strong in terms of trade, and Trump effects now comes again. What happened to us? Because Nigeria have neglected trade policy. We always look at monetary policy and fiscal policy. We forget that trade policy is very, very key because it has to do with direct importation and exportation. So with the problem of Trump now, you cannot even reduce the interest rate. Now the oil that we so relied upon, it's in our budget, you recall, it was around $70 per barrel. That's our benchmark.
Yeah, that was the benchmark that was given.
$60. What does that mean? That simply means that you are not going to achieve your aim in terms of budgetary allocation. Our government is now going to borrow money. Then also, they are borrowing, our deficit budget should be around 13 trillion. But we are going about 40-something trillion. I don't know the rationale behind it. And that's why I have issues with the National Assembly. Are they actually doing their right job? Because for me, they're not doing the right thing. How? Most of them think passing bill, I have 10 bills to my name, is a major achievement. No, it is the oversight function. That's their primary responsibility. How does the oversight function simply work? Those capital projects that has been budgeted, you have to follow it, make sure that it is implemented. But now the last news we hear is that they have actually padded, according to what is that analysis, budgets. Budget said they have actually padded a lot of things. So those people that are supposed to follow, make sure that things actually work. Because ordinarily Nigeria is the industry. You know why? You budget, we have capital and what? Recurrent budget. Now capital is what ordinary Nigeria benefits from. That also, while recurrent is what they used to pay salary and other sundry for the civil servant. The capital budget and the the recurrent budget is almost the same thing. Remember, debt services is also there eroding all those things. So until we now think about economy and said no, that's one thing RFI did when he was governor. He said, I cannot be paying only teacher salary. I cannot be paying only government worker all the money we have. We need to use money to fix road for general people. We need to build schools. We need to build health facilities. And that's the thing we are actually fighting for. That when we are doing budget, please, why not let the capital budget be more? So that Nigerians as a whole, because if you calculate all the people that work with government, are they up to 20 million? Join states, join local government, join federal government. I doubt you, go and check it. They are not up to 20 million. So where would the other about 140 workers, what are we benefiting? So those are the things. Until government now look at it in that manner, that's when we can have a way forward. And I'm sure it's what they understand. But there's this elite consensus to make sure that, and in fact, especially this government, they want to generate more revenue without buying. Before, if you give a state 100 million, it has a value of 1 billion. Now, if you give them 10 billion, the value is like 2 billion naira. So now that we have actually do that flotation of naira, what are we benefiting? Big money, small value. It is well. That's what we say.
All right, well, it is still the desk, and we're looking at, of course, state of the economy as at today. Now, you know, when people talk about economy, when economists are talking about economy, when the average Nigerians are talking about economy, people focus more on the federal government. The state governors and even the local government that they said have been given autonomy to should also be contributing. I don't know, but that's what they said. And they would not had local government chairmen coming out to say we've not collected anything. They are not crying out. But now, what is your assessment, apart from the fact that a lot of Nigerians are hungry, as they have said, and the way it is right now, the way it is, because it's real. I can feel it too from the people we interact with. Now, what can you say about the governors? You talked about the governors just now. They've been, SERAP came out to say whatever that is going to the governors, Nigerians should know. Because we're being made to understand that the monies that was realized from the subsidy removal, part of it is going to these state governors. And their allocation is now higher than what we have in the past. What are they doing to contribute to the growth of the economy too? Because they have their own role to play. The people at the state are doing well. If the hunger is reduced at the state level, additional to whatever the federal government is doing, I think it will be better. Like we are just talking about Salah just now.
Right. Well, if you recall, during the president time of Jonathan, you see that Professor Dr. Kukojewiala, who published the allocation going to subnationals. You see it when you just take the newspaper. You see it. This one is going to so state. This one is going to so local government.
Beautiful.
But now we don't see such. It's as if it's skewed in secrecy. But be that as it may, I can tell you, governors get much more allocation than before. But I think there is no direction. You know, I said it earlier. During the Obasanjo, we have what we call LEAD, Nigeria National Economic Empowerment Strategy, or Development Strategy. We have SEED, states queue, and we have LEAD, local government also queue into it. So what I'm trying to say in this is now that government is giving them money, I am expectant that government will now say, now you are getting more allocation. 10% of the allocation should go to agriculture. I have seen governor of Niger did it that time, where we bought a lot of tractor. If there is a focus, that way is where we are going. Because most of those governors have priority. Some of them, their main aim is to build airports, where there is no need for airports. You know,
how many people are flying the airplane?
You wonder, Niger, Kogi, they say they want. You wonder Delta, Anambra that have a rich neighbor like Delta, and you cost a bit to get to that place. Also want airport. You know, you now wonder why everybody looking at airport. What is it lucrative? Enugu is also, a lot of them are warming up for airport. You see that they are building what they think they are in need of. You know, and you can see that it's a misplaced priority when people are actually in hunger. So they must have somebody cautioning them that please invest in the appropriate places. I don't see most of them. I've not seen what they are actually using the money to do. Right. So maybe, and all of them actually have natural resources. I like what I hear from the governor of Nasarawa, where he said they want to start a company. So, in as much as they have this they use for solar, I will call the name. Now they have that natural resources and it belongs to federal government. Why would you as a state not start a company and also tell the government that you use your company to also partake in the production of those services so that you can create employment to an extent. So until you start thinking in that direction, I've not seen strong policy, and you will know that our mainstay is agriculture. What have we done to actually impact that? Erroneously, the major trouble of Nigeria is still food, and our mainstay is agriculture. You can see there is a serious contradiction where there is supposed to be abundance, there is nothing to consume. So until we start focusing on the right thing and empowering people in the right manner, not giving parties some of things that every month. You know, some of us are of the opinion that even we don't want palliative, why not do what will solve general problem? You know, and that's why some of us will start talking about Benue at this road. Good road and you tow it. It's not better. Economically, it will have a positive advantage in the long run. But don't just say you want to share, you know, party sum. We have seen through that money severally. What does it translate to? It is even deepening the poverty.
All right, it is still another problem from that axis, meaning the governors are not doing enough. And I'm still surprised. Why would somebody come, publish whatever that it's going out? That is transparency and making people accountable.
It's not a big deal. That's how it should be.
But why did they stop? Why did they stop it?
So that's one thing we need to keep canvassing for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It does not cost him an arm or a leg.
And he can do it.
Not directly Wale Edo. Wale Edo, any money you are giving, any location you are giving, publish it in the national. The citizen will know that, okay, my local government got 700 million. Then, Chairman sir, how have you expended the money? So the traceability will be there. You can trace it, and you know, naturally they have budget. So show us where you actually expend the money. Because a conversation happened between Alex Oti and Governor of and Soludo. Soludo is launching government house. Alex Oti is saying, no, I want to convert my own government house to hotel. You know, you start thinking the psyche, you know, the professor and a banker. You know, that simply means that at the point of conceptualization, people don't have priority. It's just let my government have a big name, that the one that built so edifice. It's not about that. You must translate. And
the people are hungry. You're building edifice.
Translate to the human capital
development.
You know, as of today, Nigeria has overtaken Sudan as the highest country with malnutrition.
Oh.
Sudan in war. So in Nigeria that doesn't have war, even the pocket of problem we have is in some states. Then we have issue of malnutrition. That simply means there is poverty. I recall, it was 2018, World Poverty Clock said Nigeria is the capital of what? Of poverty. So, and government is not doing anything positive. I know that anything that has to do with consumption, food, you know, in an adage, I always say that when food is out of problem, that is, there is no much, it's 50%, problem is 50% soft. But when you find it difficult to eat, purchasing power is not, the people go to work once a week and sleep there, or they go once, they go the third day. That is actually affecting even the GDP of Nigeria.
I don't know if the authorities are actually taking cognizance of the fact that all these things play out to affect the economy negatively. As of today, this is where we are. But then, I think beyond all of this, the federal government have so much to do to bring Nigerians out of the present situation. There is not, well, time is not on our side. I wanted us to talk about infrastructure before, but time is already up. For the fact that there is no food, we can see some infrastructural development. We have Coastal Road, of course, and the FCT minister too, having like 19 projects to commission in the FCT.
We appreciate having infrastructure, but we should also undermine education and health sector.
Education and health. In FCT, someone was asking me a few days ago if the primary health care have resumed.
I'm interested to know if they have resumed. And also primary education, they have not resumed up to now. So how can you be building road and people with intellectual capacity keep building? Health, you cannot go to hospital access.
All right, that is where we are, and that's the state of the nation, the state of the economy as at today. Well, this is going to be the size of the desk for today. Many thanks for joining us on the text today, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
All right, viewers out there, we'll come on your way again with another edition of the desk, and that's going to be on Wednesday when we discuss another very topical issue. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Bye-bye for now, and have a beautiful evening.